In this video, I'm going to reflect on 4 Michigan football players from the Lloyd Carr era, and I'm also going to talk about how injuries are the great equalizer in sports and also the great wild card in sports. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76 Sports. Normally, I'd say please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. But after comments by the great Bo Lytle, I'll simply say if you see fit, you can leave a like, you can share, and or you can leave a comment. It's all up to you. So, in this instance, and going forward, I'm going to jump right in and get to anything else I want to get to after I've presented the main topic. This is going to be a bit of a historical, retrospective thought piece. It's not going to talk about the upcoming 2022 Michigan football season, but instead this is going to be more of a general sports discussion, which is universal and which relates to my book project, but it's something that we've seen throughout sports and across sports over the years. And again, guys, this is going to be a bit of a thought piece. So if you want to stop watching right now, you're free to stop watching right now. I know that some commenters and some viewers, they get frustrated with content, and they get frustrated if they don't see what they want to see when they think they're going to see it, and they get frustrated if they don't get what they want. So, if you don't want to continue on, you're perfectly fine to click this off. But with that being said, I'm going to jump in and let's talk about 4 former Michigan football players from the Lloyd Carr era and how injuries are the great equalizer and the great wild card in sports. As many of you know, and if you don't know, I was a graduate student at the University of Michigan during Lloyd Carr's last years, and I've talked about that on this channel, and I'll probably leave my Lloyd Carr related content in the description box below, and other historical videos related to Coach Carr and his tenure and his players, and those videos have actually done pretty well. But despite his critics, and Lloyd Carr had many, Lloyd Carr could recruit, and he had quite a few talented quarterbacks and running backs and players at all positions come through the program during his tenure, especially during its rocky finish. Now, for those who are knowledgeable in the program, you know that his last 2 quarterbacks were John Navarre and Chad Henne, and the quarterback who took over for John Navarre wasn't supposed to be Chad Henne. It was supposed to be a gentleman named Matt Gutierrez. And Matt Gutierrez was John Navarre's understudy. And he sat patiently behind John Navarre the previous 2 to 3 years. And when John Navarre graduated and had his historic season and his historic career come to a close, it was Matt Gutierrez who was supposed to be his successor. I believe Matt Gutierrez was from California, and he was 6'4", uber talented, and he had been in the program for a number of years, and again, he was ready to take over for John Navarre in a seamless way. The same is true for the running back position. David Underwood was a back from Texas, and he sat patiently behind players like B.J. Askew and Chris Perry, and he finally got his opportunity, or he was going to get his opportunity during the 2004 season, just like Matt Gutierrez. It's worth noting that they were in the same class with players like Braylon Edwards and Marlon Jackson, Tim Massaquoi, Ernest Shazer, and Pierre Woods. That was a talented group, and just like those other players, they were both ready to ascend into the starting lineup after sitting and waiting their turn the previous 3 years. I still remember driving back to Ann Arbor in early 2004 from Buffalo after the holiday season and hearing that Braylon Edwards had decided to return for his senior year, and he was excited about the fact that they had a number of players coming back, and he was excited about the fact that Matt Gutierrez was coming back, and he had all the potential in the world, and they were just going to pick up from where they left off with John Navarre. And so all that entire 2004 summer, all you heard about was how Matt Gutierrez was going to step up and step into the quarterback position and take his place among the other great Michigan quarterbacks. And then something unexpected happened shortly before the first game of that season. We got word, the entire fan base, the football team, the program, the whole college football landscape got word that Matt Gutierrez tore his labrum in his throwing arm. And as you know, well, if a quarterback can't move his arm, if he can't throw, then he's pretty much useless. Now, it just so happens that that same year, Lloyd Carr recruited, I believe, the top, if not one of the top quarterback prospects in the country, in Chad Henne from nearby Pennsylvania. And so Chad Henne beat out all of the other quarterbacks in the room, and Lloyd Carr went to him and said, "Are you ready to start?" This is how they portrayed it in the news and on the radio. Lloyd Carr went to Chad Henne and said, "Are you ready to start?" And Chad Henne said, "Yeah." And before we knew it, now we had this freshman quarterback starting for our Michigan football program. So you go from having this senior, this veteran who'd waited his turn and had that turn snatched away due to injury, and now you have this young, unproven and unknown freshman. And I'd only seen a little bit of footage of Chad Henne in the Army game, and I'm thinking, okay, well, there goes, any hope of us getting into the BCS title game and winning the Big Ten, because now we have this freshman at quarterback. So a similar thing happened at the running back position, though not exactly the same circumstance. Matt Gutierrez, because he tore his labrum, that required surgery, and he was done for the year. David Underwood got concussed early in the season, and it affected him for a number of weeks. And it just so turned out that Lloyd Carr recruited a highly talented tailback from upstate New York, down the road from my hometown of Buffalo in Syracuse, and that was Mike Hart. So now, instead of having this veteran tailback carrying the ball for us and carrying the load and pass protecting for the quarterback, now you have this young freshman, Mike Hart. So now you have this young freshman at quarterback, and now you have this young freshman at running back. And it was completely expected for the fan base, and probably completely it was unexpected for the fan base and probably unexpected for the entire roster. And who knows and who knew what was going to happen at that point in time. And I myself was waiting and looking to see growing pains. I was looking to see those two young guys make mistakes, and I was looking to see our team falter throughout that season. But something interesting happened. They both got in there, and they both played lights out. Chad Henne, I think they started him off early with the playbook. I think they dialed the playbook back. I think they simplified the offense at first for Chad Henne. And then once he showed that he could handle it, they opened it up. Mike Hart, in terms of his running, he very much, in some ways, reminded me of Barry Sanders. Not in terms of being elusive and all the juking, but in terms of taking hits, looking like he was going to get knocked to the turf, staying on his feet, keeping runs alive. Both of those freshmen played unlike freshmen. So they got a hold of those jobs, and they weren't giving them up. So again, Chad Henne showed a poise and a demeanor in the pocket that you wouldn't have expected from a freshman. And he won us a number of games, one of the most notable being the Michigan State game, where he hit Braylon Edwards for that late touchdown, which gave us the victory after we had fallen behind the Spartans early on at the Big House. Of course, Drew Stanton getting hurt early on in that game had something to do with our coming back. But both of those freshmen grabbed a hold of those jobs. I don't think there was a chance for Matt Gutierrez to come back, but certainly David Underwood was unable to reclaim his job once he became healthy later on in the season. And there are articles on that, and I'll leave one in the description box below. But the underlying message of all this is that it was injuries. It was injuries to Matt Gutierrez, and it was an injury. It was that concussion to David Underwood. The torn labrum with Matt Gutierrez and the concussion to David Underwood, which opened the door for Chad Henne and Mike Hart. Who knows how that season would have turned out if Matt Gutierrez and David Underwood had ascended into their rightful starting positions the way that they were supposed to. We'll never know. We know that the one blemish, well, actually there were two blemishes on that season. There was the loss down in the snake pit at the Horseshoe to Troy Smith and Ohio State, and then there was the Rose Bowl loss to Vince Young and his Texas Longhorns. But who knows how that season would have gone had those two seniors started throughout the season and led the team throughout the season. Now, as a graduate student, obviously my main concern for being at the university was doing my research and earning my PhD, but I followed the Michigan football program pretty closely during those times, like a lot of folks in town. And I looked on at Matt Gutierrez and David Underwood, and I felt a certain amount of sympathy and empathy for them because they had prepared all those years only to have injuries take their opportunities away. Now, Matt Gutierrez, he transferred to Idaho. I think it was either Idaho or Idaho State. Somewhere in Idaho, he transferred. And he eventually got to the NFL, just like Chad Henne and Mike Hart did. David Underwood didn't get to the NFL, if I believe. So he was able to salvage what happened with his shoulder in the maize and blue, but David Underwood was not. But I felt for those two guys. I had experienced something similar, just like a lot of guys have at the next level down, at the high school level. And that's one of the bases for my book project, The Engineers, a Western New York Basketball Story. Injuries are a part of sports no matter which level you're on, whether it's Little League or the a modified, the modified level, the interscholastic level at the high school level, college sports, divisions 1, 2, and 3, the pro levels. Injuries are the great equalizer. Injuries are the wild card. As a coach, you can't plan for those. You're assembling a roster. You foresee a roster at the beginning of the season. You have visions and plans for that roster, but you don't know when that one injury or those several injuries are going to strike that'll take out key players from your roster. Players who you are counting on to have a stellar season. Injuries, they change seasons for every team. Not just the team who has sustained the injuries, but also for other teams in the league, teams in other conferences, because pathways forward are paved by players getting hurt on specific rosters. Other teams benefit from those injuries, so they change whole trajectories for multiple teams. Whole careers and futures are altered and overturned by injuries. And some players never ever recover from those injuries and their effects. Sometimes they recover from the injury, but mentally they're not the same player. And sometimes their bodies are never exactly the same as they were before they tore that ACL or broke that ankle or broke that tibia or that fibula or tore that labrum or after that concussion. Sometimes the players are never the same. Sometimes they lose their competitive edge permanently. And that's why it's remarkable and astounding whenever you see a player come back and recover and return to where they were. And that's why it's gratifying to see a player come back and return and even surpass, in some instances, who they were. And I'll close by saying that injuries are excruciating for players. One of the hardest things to do is to prepare for something and to anticipate your opportunity and to have it snatched away from you, and then to see someone step up and excel in the position that you were supposed to be excelling at. And that's hard for a lot of young people to deal with. It's hard for a lot of professional athletes to deal with. And it's something that people who've never put on a uniform or competed, it's something that they would never know. It's something that the fan on the sidelines who has never competed, who has never put on a uniform, who's never laced up the shoes, it's something that even the most critical fans who have never played, it's something that they would never know. In any case, as we know, sports are a part of life, and life is full of adversities, and all you can do is move on regardless of the outcome, whether or not you make your return or you don't. Somehow you have to find peace with it and move on. Just like Matt Gutierrez did, and just like David Underwood did, and just like the countless other athletes across sports and across the world have done. Now, the other thing before I stop this is that coaches, when they deal with this and they see their players getting injured, coaches are under pressure to keep going and to win and to move the next guy up. So the train or the bus doesn't stop, or it shouldn't stop, just for one player. And that's the other part of this whole thing, is that sometimes the season, the team, everything has to somehow move on, even with those players who have prepared and who have seen their dreams go up in flames. So that's all I wanted to say. Let me know what you think in the comments section below if you've watched to the end. Let me know if you were once an athlete who had dreams that were snatched away by injuries, or let me know if you know someone whose dreams were snatched away by injuries, or let me know if your team was affected by an injury that turned the entire season over on its head. It's a prevalent thing in sports, and it's an unfortunate thing in sports, but it's a part of sports. And Matt Gutierrez and David Underwood are just two examples amongst many. Again, I'm not going to ask for subscriptions or likes or shares. If you see fit, you can like and you can subscribe and you can share. Also, if you see fit, you can make a donation to the channel. My information is below via Cash App and PayPal. And also now you can leave a super thanks here on the channel as well. Everyone, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. There you'll find information about my writings in addition to my YouTubing. And you'll also hear about my book project, The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story, which I talked about, or which I alluded to in this video. So everyone, stay safe out there. Go blue. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.